there's an assumption that more information is always better than less. And that turns out to be true when you go from having no information to having some information. But, we're long past the point of some information. We now are overwhelmed with information, and it's not consistent. And I don't think our cognitive apparatus is able to assimilate and integrate all the information that's out there. And the result is that we are often easily led astray. And in a situation where people are facing huge amounts of information and huge amounts of choice, they often choose on the basis of what's easiest to evaluate rather than on the basis of what's most important to evaluate. And often what's easiest to evaluate is not the most useful information out there. If you choose a romantic partner based on physical appearance, which is easy to evaluate, instead of, say, on kindness, intelligence, sense of humor, empathy, all of which are hard to evaluate, you'll end up with a pretty crappy romantic partner, probably. Same thing is true when you're making investment decisions.
I feel like one of the big problems why people don't make enough money anymore is they literally have paralysis by overanalysis. And this is one of the things you teach in your book. So what do you do? Do you just say, good enough, I've looked a little bit, I looked for a month, and then I just pick the next best option?
Well, you just answered the question. Exactly what you do is you look for good enough. You don't look for the best. I watched this teaching at a very selective college for 45 years, very talented students, and they were graduating just as you described. Everything was open to them, and they couldn't figure out which path was the right path to follow. And they tortured themselves. They were full of anxiety. They worked at Starbucks, hoping one morning they'd wake up knowing what the future would hold. And of course, no magic descends from the heavens and tells you what to do with the rest of your life. And I think the problem is that they thought the task was to get the best possible job or pursue the best possible career instead of a good enough job. You're right, back in the olden days where there was no choice and you were kind of locked in to doing what your father did or to the limited number of opportunities in the town in which you grew up, and that was way too confining. But we've now exploded that.
So we've gone from one extreme to the other.
And we think that more is better than less, and that turns out not to be true. We did a study some years ago tracking college seniors as they applied for jobs. And there were some college seniors who we described as maximizers. They wanted the best. And there were others who we described as satisficers. They wanted good enough. And in my book, I talk about this distinction. And here's what we found. The maximizers got better jobs than the satisficers, measured by starting salary. And they felt worse about the jobs they got.
Huh.
Because they, no matter how good the job was, they thought, or they suspected, or they imagined that somewhere out there in the universe there was a better job that they hadn't gotten or that they hadn't even seen. And if you spend your life in a good place thinking you could be in a better place, you're never going to be satisfied with what you've got. And so I think the problem is not only that there's too much choice. I think the problem is also that what too much choice has done is it's given people aspirations and expectations that are completely unmeetable, so that even when they do well, they feel like they fail.